Hey everybody, this video is going to be on social media and how to navigate social media, strategies for engaging social media, especially for fasting and taking breaks from social media. I know it's kind of a random topic, but I actually think about this a lot, especially as I'm running a YouTube channel, and I think it's really, really important. If you don't feel what I feel about this, if you don't feel the concern and the alarm about social media, because I think of social media as kind of like cars before they had seatbelts. It's where the technology has shot us ahead, but we haven't quite learned how to manage it yet. If you don't feel that, watch the movie The Social Dilemma on Netflix, or Google Facebook troll farms, and do some research about the way social media is accelerating the polarization in our culture. And just, there's lots to be worried about. This is a very serious issue. And for those of us, especially in the younger generation, people like me, many of you who watch my videos, I'm sure we're engaging with social media a lot. It's really important to think about. And the good news is I've become convinced the answer to all of this isn't necessarily to stop using social media altogether. I think the answer is just being careful about how we go about it. So just like we'd say, you know, the problem with cars isn't necessarily you don't drive in a car. It's just you get a seatbelt. Well, similarly, we need seatbelts for social media. We need to figure out ways where we can engage it and reap its benefits without it leading to our a disruption to our mental health, which it so often does. So I've been thinking about this a lot personally. This video is going to be very practical and personal. Just kind of basically, I want to go through 10 strategies for ways I've worked at this myself, and just in hopes maybe they could be helpful for someone else out there, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who has to wrestle with this. And I do think there's some basic steps that we can take that can be helpful. So that'll come second, in just a second. The strategy is the how. First, I want to speak a little bit to why this matters for me and why this is so important. And to do that, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite books, which my brother Eric laughed at me when I held this one up when we were talking about favorite books, but I love the original book, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. You know, sometimes lately I've been somewhat exhausted from different things I've been doing, and that's partly what goes into my interest in this topic, trying to find healthy rhythms, you know. But this whole issue, this whole book, I mean, so I like every now and again just a kind of a more mindless read, just a fun fiction read. And I read that when I was in like 8th grade, and so it's kind of nostalgic to go back and read it now. So it's the same thing I like about rewatching old movies that I like. I actually enjoy that more than watching a new movie. I think something about life being so busy, there's this comfort in going back to what we already know. But anyway, I love the original Jurassic Park book. It's a great book. But the thing I want to say about it, and the reason it's relevant to this, is this actually is a book that has a philosophical point. If you open it up to page 1, you have an introduction before the fiction starts. And it's just 2.5 pages. The first sentence of it says, "The late 20th century has witnessed a scientific gold rush of astonishing proportions, the headlong and furious haste to commercialize genetic engineering." He's going on. And basically, what he's saying is this whole book is a metaphor. The technology used to build dinosaurs is a metaphor for the hubristic and undisciplined and unwise use of technology, and specifically commercialized genetic engineering. That's what Michael Crichton was worried about. Michael Crichton's a great writer, fascinating person. And I love the metaphor. It's a cautionary tale. It's like Frankenstein or something like that. It's a powerful metaphor. Think about it. You have the ability to create dinosaurs, but they eat you. You know, you have incredible power, but then that very power destroys you. And I think that's an incredibly good metaphor for technology. And one example of which would be social media. We have incredible power. With my phone, this piece of glass and plastic, I can access so much information. It's astonishing what I can do with that one device. And yet, if I don't have wisdom in how I use it, it can destroy me. It can make me stressed and anxious and depressed. It can unleash all kinds of, honestly, it really can have a severe effect. I think it does. I think a lot of people are struggling with mental health struggles because we're not using social media wisely, and that affects us in profound ways. you probably know more about that than I do. I'm not an expert on this. Again, just my personal journey, but most of you probably have a sensitivity that this is something we need to think about. I have a blog post where I've talked more about Michael Crichton's book, the character Ian Malcolm, and his whole idea. If you remember him, he was played by, is it Jeff Goldblum in the movies? His whole idea, chaos theory, he's kind of the mouthpiece for a lot of Crichton's ideas. But the one quote that I always think about is when he says, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. Well, that is really relevant to today. I've often thought, I do think about getting rid of my iPhone and just going back to a dumb phone, because again, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. But for right now, I'm just trying to keep it within boundaries, because I know that if I just rely on my moment-by-moment decisions, the algorithms will win. I'm not smarter than the algorithms. They're gonna get me addicted, and it's so easy to get pulled in. So here are 10 strategies that I've come up with. I'm really curious what others, just ideas. I'm not trying to say, this is just trying to be helpful, provoking thought for others. Let me know your strategies in the comments. I'm not trying to say these are the ones you need to do. Okay, number one, I'll go through these super quick. Number one is just have certain times in the day when you put your phone away and you're not engaging social media as a matter of discipline. Now, my philosophy on these things is better to have really modest rules that you actually obey than really ambitious rules that you don't obey. So for me, right now, not to limit it to this, but all I do is I do check social media in the morning before I start my workday, but then I just put my phone away and don't check it at all in the rest of the morning. So like, I don't know, 8:30 or 9 a.m. until lunchtime is just nothing. And that's a small step. I mean, and then I have weekly things too. So Saturday night and Sunday morning is all off. So just once a week, I get kind of a Sabbath break going into church the next morning. So my mind and my heart are fresh for church. Now that's very modest. When you think about it, that still leaves an enormous, and it's not like I'm on social media all afternoon. I'm just saying I'm allowed to check it if I want to then. But in the morning, it's like, no. It's like no matter what. Now, the thing is, I'm not legalistic about this. It may be that there's a day where I have a video come out. And I'm like, I'm just going to take the day off, and instead I'll take the evening off. And so these guidelines are not meant to be legalistic. They're just meant to be helpful things. And what I find is, again, you don't have to, I don't think the answer is necessarily for everyone, though it could be for some people. Total abstinence from social media. But I just find that if I have blocks of time that I carve out where it's not even an option, I feel calmer, I'm more productive, because those are my best thinking hours in the morning. I can actually study, I can actually read without getting disrupted. That's the scary thing. People, I know people, for example, who really can't read anymore. Like they'll just tell me like, oh yeah, I don't read books. My brain's been changed too much by social media. Seriously, it's to the point where it's like the way our brains take in. Now, I believe there's hope. If that puts guilt on anybody already, I believe there's hope. We can change with our habits, but it is serious to think about that. So I want to have time where I can have kind of long form concentration, as opposed to social media, which is constantly triggering us with quick sound bites. And what I find is, so I'll have nights where I'll like leave my phone and computer in my office, go home, play with the kids, watch a movie, hang out with my wife, maybe do some reading or something, come back the next morning, and I enjoy social media more. The thing is, its tentacles will pull you in, but and you won't keep going back because you enjoy it. Have you ever had a time where you're scrolling mindlessly through social media, Twitter, Facebook, something, and you can't even remember why? These devices pull us in, but they don't give us pleasure for that. We can actually enjoy them more if we are disciplined about it and we have barriers and we have guardrails. Okay, these next ones will be real fast. So that's number one, is just have times in the day and then times in the week. And then maybe there's other things too, like vacation. That's a fun one to think about. Maybe we I've seen Matt Fradd and other people like that take a whole month off. I haven't tried that yet. I really want to do that. The thing is too, I was so scared that I was nervous, and I thought, oh no, what if I get into the evening and I really want to check? But I actually haven't found it that hard. If you just make the mental effort to do so, and you don't have something that like you're really interested in checking, then I found it can be done. So I want to try for those longer periods of time too. I just haven't had the chance to do that yet. All right, number two is Simply delete the apps from your phone. So your phone, like take the email app off if you need to. For me, it's just the YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter apps. Just delete them from your phone. That way I have to open my computer. Simple thing, but it makes it so much better. And then secondly, with that, just keep your phone on the do not disturb function. You know, you swipe up and you get this little moon thing here, and it means that your phone doesn't buzz at you. Instead, what that does, instead of my phone tapping me on the shoulder saying, hey, I want to talk, it's me, I have to go to my phone, because it's not going to be making noises at me or buzzing at me, and that's a really helpful little thing. And if it's really, if you're on your computer doing something else and you're really struggling with wanting to pull up something, just logging out of that app, Twitter I've done that where I'll log out of Twitter for the day. And it's just a mental discipline. Again, to encourage you, once you start doing these things, you get the kickbacks, you get benefits from it, you feel calmer, so it gets easier as you go. Number 3 idea is, this is really, some of these are really silly and simple, but it's good to do them. Make any engagement of social media a stationary activity, not a mobile activity. And what I mean by that is not just don't do it while you're driving, but don't do it while you're walking. I know it sounds silly, but you know, I was at a university campus the other week and I was looking around, people are always on their phones while they're walking. And it's a simple thing, but it's like if you get in the mental discipline of, oh, if my phone buzzes while I'm walking and I want to check it, I'm just going to stop walking. Simple thing to stop the clutter, because that's what I've experienced. There's times where I feel depressed because my life gets so cluttered and I've just got too much going on. Number 4, have certain geographical locations where you never, ever, ever bring your phone. This is a simple one that I thought of that works so well. For me, it's the dining room table. That's just, I never like... In my mind, I function like there's a magnet that pushes the phone away. Just don't ever bring your phone there. So when I'm eating, and then if I feel like getting away from my phone while I'm at the house, I can just go to the dining room table and mentally it's like something clicks in. It's like, okay, this is my concentration space. It's kind of like when I'm in my office and I'm not working, I turn a different light on and it just psychologically helps me switch gears to like I'm not in work mode. Something simple like that. Maybe it means even like in the backyard or something like that. That might be helpful. Number 5, do certain errands where you don't bring your phone with you. These days, I try to pick up my oldest son from school at 2:15 every day. It takes about 10 minutes. There's no need to bring my phone, you know, because the fear is, oh, what if I need my phone if I get in a car accident or something like that, or if I get a flat tire, and that's legitimate. But for me, I'm not too worried about that. It's real close by. It's during the day. It's not, you know, and it's like, we got to remember, back in the old days, the 1990s, you know, remember when you used to print off directions from MapQuest? That's what I used to do. And if you get a flat tire or something, you actually have to talk with a human being. It's like, well, would it really be the worst thing in the world? This is me talking to myself. If I had to go, like, you know, would not use my phone in a circumstance like that. That's how the world used to run, you know. But we've gotten so dependent upon these things. So that's this little thing that helps me too. Number 6 is don't feel any guilt about muting or unfollowing people who you find drag you down or trigger you or disturb your mental health. There is no obligation to follow somebody, no obligation to read their tweets, no obligation to watch their videos, and there is so much negativity out there. Number 7 is related to that, and that's be extra careful to practice kindness and charity on social media. I aspire to be the kind of person that is kind on social media, but tough face-to-face, because the temptation of the flesh, I think, is just the opposite. Because social media rewards outrage. You know, I've often thought you get more retweets and you get more likes and you get more views if you're mad about everything. That's just the way it works. The way, I've done some reading about this, the way social media engages our brains is such that, sadly, the more sort of emotional punch something has, the more views and so forth it'll get. And that has some really scary, unhealthy mechanisms. I've often thought that what society used to do with stocks, we now do with Twitter and social media, where it can be a public shaming device. And there's a reward. Here's the scary thing that I do think about a lot is social media actually not just tolerates, but actually rewards certain vices. narcissism, being a jerk, being over the top in your criticisms of people, playing to a particular corner or market, which kind of furthers the polarization of our world. If you think about it like this, the Beatitudes and social media, a lot of times they're not just misaligned, they're actually opposite. Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers. Social media blesses the outraged. Jesus says, blessed are the meek. Social media blesses those who call attention to themselves. It's really dangerous. Now, I don't want to say that too hard, because it's like there is a time to be outraged. There are times where we're over worried about drawing attention to ourselves, and I've wrestled with that. Like, should I even have a YouTube channel? All those things. But it's just good to be aware of that and make extra efforts to be kind, honor other people. There's so many times where when I'm not in a good mood, I just know it's not the time to tweet about this. There's just other ways we can deal with those things. And so fighting against those negative currents, I think, is really good, and seeking to practice the fruits of the Spirit as much as we can. Just being mindful that the natural drift of social media is going to be away from the fruits of the Spirit and toward the fruits of the flesh, unfortunately. And so fighting against that. Number 8 is when you are facing envy. This is another one of the dangers of social media, is constant comparison, because there's a number for everything. How many views, how many subscribers, how many likes, how many retweets, etc., etc. And so what I do to fight against this is, because the temptation of the flesh will be to look at the person who has more than you and be envious. And envy is my least favorite thing in the universe. I mean, envy is the worst. Almost all other vices have some kind of trade-off that makes them tempting. But envy is nothing but unpleasant. I preached a sermon on envy a couple years back. I was stunned at how much we don't think about envy enough. Envy is terrible. It's a thief of joy in so many of our lives. So what I do is whenever I feel that way, as we all will, I try to redirect to gratitude and focus on gratitude for what I do have. So instead of saying, wow, that person has all of that attention, I try to refocus on, but look at what I do have, and help me to be grateful for that. Help me to cultivate whatever small, modest influence I might have, like a garden. I'm grateful for it. I'm focusing on that. The glass half empty versus half full, I'm focusing on the half full. I'm focusing on gratitude for whatever influence I do have. And then it's the prayer is, Lord, help me to serve these people that I do have following me. Number 9 is try to have real life interactions that complement your social media interactions. If you like to argue with people on social media, okay, I don't want to be a stickler about this. There's a time for arguing on social media. I don't want to say we can never argue, but we should argue in real life too. Social media should complement our face-to-face interactions, not compensate for lacking them. If you never argue with someone in real life, then you shouldn't argue on social media. So try to balance those things out. And I do think it's actually, here's a wonderful tip. The next time you're tempted to get angry, lash out, criticize, take a shot at somebody, something like that, consider, is this the kind of occasion where I could actually call this person on the phone or reach out to them privately, a direct message or an email, and say, hey, your comment hurt me or concerned me in this way. Here's what I'm feeling about it. Would you be open to talking about this? I guarantee you that will probably be more likely to have a winsome effect and a positive effect all the way around. And you maybe a lot of times what I've found is when you do something like that, you realize, oh, it's actually a little more complicated. Now I can kind of understand how they're looking at it a little better. Social media, again, the triggering and the outrage, it just tends to escalate things, and that's not good. We gotta remember how to argue and reason with other people that we disagree with without erupting in outrage. I think about this every day. I think calm disagreement is just disappearing, and that's a countercultural way we can bear testimony to the gospel. Is if we disagree, we argue, but we do so without vilifying the other side, because that's the temptation of our culture right now, and I think social media contributes to it. Okay, number 10, last one. When you notice that social media is detracting from your mental health, just let it go. And this is so freeing to just let go. They always say, so I try to do a video once per week. I'm going to try to aim for like Thursdays, one video. And they always say, oh, don't miss a week, because then, the algorithms show, or your analytics show how much that you go down. It's like, who cares? At a certain point, what is the point of gaining this massive following and so forth if it's bad for you and you don't have any joy, So here's a happy thought. And this is where I try to bring my heart back to continually be able to say to God, if I can have more of you and more joy in your presence by letting go of all of this, may I always be willing in a moment to just completely step away permanently from all social media. And that's a freeing and wonderful thing to come back to and kind of lay it down before God and say, this is not a non-negotiable. This is open-handed before you. At any point, I can step away. And then being willing, maybe in limited ways, to step back when we notice, this is not good for me. So if I don't have a video coming out next week, you will know why. Because I have been wrestling with this of, how do I manage this? I don't want this to overspill the boundaries. So those are my strategies. Hope that's helpful to somebody out there. I'm not saying all this in a spirit of, oh, here's what you have to do. I think there's room for liberty of conscience for how different people pursue this. But I just hope this could be helpful to somebody else, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who wrestles with it. I'd love to hear, what are your strategies? Write a comment and let other people benefit from your strategies and how you approach this. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you would like it and subscribe, I'd love to stay in touch. Hit the bell button. You'll see, like I said, most weeks, though, maybe it'll change after this one. Videos will be coming out next Thursday. The next video after this one, I believe, will be my interview with William Lane Craig on the historical Adam. I'm so excited to share that with everybody. All right, thanks. Take care.